After a 57-win season that resulted in a second-round exit, the Thunder wasted no time at all taking their roster to the next level. And while on the surface, Alex Caruso may not seem like the ultimate needle mover, I think some of what he brings to the table could end up being a lot more valuable than anyone anticipates. For starters, Caruso's motor is off the charts. He's one of those guys who plays every single possession like it's the last time he'll ever step on a court. Just look at him on this play. He slides down to the paint to tag a big, recovers to his man on the perimeter with a closeout to run him off the line, before peeling right back onto the big for a block from behind. Or how about this one where he picks up Cade full court to deny him the ball, gets a hand on a pass near the logo, which results in a turnover. Of course, that's where his impact is felt most, sticking to individual matchups out in space and just smothering them with his constant pressure and activity. Not only is he really quick laterally, he's also pretty sturdy, meaning that on a play like this where he cuts off Clarkson's drive, he'll absorb a few bumps while holding his ground to not give up any separation. And in addition to those physical tools, he's one of the most sound technical defenders you'll see. A lot of guys would react to this hesitation from Booker by taking a step back, but he doesn't react at all, and that allows him to get a good contest on the pull-up jumper. This really stands out when it comes to getting around screens. Oftentimes you'll see him go over them like they don't even exist, and that forces ball handlers to play one-on-one a lot more than they typically would. Here's one where he makes himself skinny to phase right through it, then when LeVert pulls back into a drive, he loses his footing and fumbles. This time you're going to see him go under the screen to not let DeJounte get a lane, then when they flip the action to attack left, he goes over while staying glued to the ball, only to jump right back in front and draw a charge. And it's the exact same thing whenever he's chasing someone away from the ball. Again, it's DeJounte who he sticks with as he receives a handoff before sticking up a hand to deflect the pass. Here's one where he has to chase Steph Curry, and look at how he angles his body to get over two screens like they don't even exist. That's just flawless technique to at least stay within reach of the game's greatest shooter. And because it's tough to lose him with off-ball movement, even after a screen or two, that usually means these attackers are gonna have to create something off the catch. Only, we already talked about Caruso's one-on-one defense, this time swiping down at the ball to take away a pull-up jumper. Those swipe downs are a huge part of his game. Like I said, he'll use his agility and strength to cut off drives, and if the ball gets exposed even a little bit, he'll attack it with some of the best hands in the game. His timing on these swipe downs is as good as it gets, and it makes things so much more difficult for offensive players to create. Not only is he tough to beat off the dribble or with a screen, if you're trying to gather into a jumper, good luck getting the ball to the shooting pocket. Because most of these happen while an offensive player is either gathering or getting into a shot, they're often recorded on the stat sheet as blocks. Caruso averaged a block per game last season, second among all guards behind just Derek White. And like I said, most of these aren't vertical contests at the rim, rather these perfectly timed swipes to not even let the player get an attempt off. Even when he doesn't make contact with the ball though, you can still see how these plays make a difference. Here, Shea's gonna operate out of the post and turn into a jumper. When Caruso swipes, he has to adjust his shot, and that awkwardness results in an air ball. It also helps him recover in the rare event that he does get beat. On this one, Edwards uses his explosive first step to get by Caruso's hip, and right when you think he might have a layup, he doesn't. In addition to bringing more resistance on the perimeter, these sharp hands, and in particular the swipe down, play a key role in his ability to switch onto bigger players. Bam is obviously a huge mismatch for him in the post, but by attacking the ball, he's able to negate the size advantage. Here's one where he's matched up with Zion, and the entry pass is thrown high, so instead of a swipe down, it's a swipe up to force a turnover, and the idea here is that he can sort of serve as a defensive chess piece, matching up with whoever you need him to. Tatum's got a bunch of size and weight on him, creates separation, and can't even get into a shot. He pairs these hands with the agility and strength I talked about, which makes him really unique. He's got the size of a guard, not very much length, yet you feel comfortable with him defending bigger wings and forwards, which fits right in with how the Thunder like to play defense. They don't follow the formula of having multiple rim protectors and a bunch of size. Rather, they like to have 4 versatile wings on the floor to switch around their defensive centerpiece, Chet, which Caruso not only fits right into, he takes it to a completely different level. Which brings me to my next point, and maybe the most important of this entire video. OKC seems to be going in a really interesting direction with the way they're building their team. Typically, what teams will do is find their weakness and try to do what they can to either minimize or eliminate those, maybe somewhat at the expense of what they do best. For the Thunder, it felt like their biggest weaknesses came to light against Dallas in the second round. Those being the size, physicality, and rebounding on one end, and the lack of consistent shooting from role players on the other. And instead of going out and trying to cover those holes, they leaned even more into what they do best. I'd argue the standout quality of this team was their aggressive style of defense and the way they'd help, rotate, and play lanes to force their opponents into making mistakes. As a result, they forced just under 16 turnovers a game, first in the NBA by a considerable margin, and then they did the exact same thing in the playoffs, showing that even when the game tightens up, they'll stick to what worked for 82 games. What's so crazy to me about this is you could make the argument that Caruso's the best defensive playmaker in the NBA right now, and if not, he's very close. He led the league at nearly 4 deflections a game, and remember, he doesn't even play 30 minutes, so that's a really impressive feat. He was also 3rd in steals, in the top 25 in charges drawn. As I mentioned earlier, he'll pick up some blocks, so I can't even imagine what this looks like within OKC's aggressive defensive environment. And it isn't just his ability to make plays on the ball as a man defender, whether that's picking someone's pocket or one of those signature swipe downs. He has incredible instincts away from the ball, reading actions, and putting himself in positions to make a difference. This has turned him into a devastating help defender. Particularly at the nail, it's tough for ball handlers to get down the middle of the floor without running into one of his sharp hands. And when he reaches down for a steal, then OG gathers early for a runner, well, he can take that away too. Naturally, the reaction would be to kick it to whoever he's matched up with on the wing, but like I said, he can read that and jump the lane for one of his many deflections, so really nothing's safe. This one right here is maybe my favorite defensive possession of his. Keep in mind they're down by 30, so right away his energy level once again stands out. Chicago's gonna ice the pick and pop, and Caruso comes over from the middle to take away Joel as an option. The play resets, everyone getting back to their man, but Joel quickly attacks off the catch, only to run right into Caruso, who's in perfect position to draw a charge. So really, it's in the offense's best interest to keep Caruso in the corner when they can. That way he's not on the ball, not blowing up action in the middle, yet he'll still continue to make things happen. A big part of OKC's aggressive defensive scheme is to send the low man over early as an extra body to help take away the paint and force more kickouts, and Caruso again is a perfect fit because that's already how he likes to play in these spots, recognizing threats and pre-positioning himself to take them away as a sort of undersized rim protector. Basically, what I'm getting at is the fact that he can play any role the team needs him to. If he's alongside Dort, I'd expect more of that off-ball game to show up, blowing up drives and action in the middle of the floor, jumping lanes, or rotating early to force turnovers. But if they go to a shooter like Isaiah Joe for more offense, then he'd be their primary guy at the point of attack. Full court pressure, dodging screens, and for a team that just produced the number 4 defense, adding, in my opinion, arguably the best defensive guard in the NBA, who fits right into your scheme, is a pretty big deal. That's where most of his value lies. Obviously, he's not much of an offensive threat, but I also think he can bring some meaningful traits on that end. For one, I think he took a pretty noticeable leap as a shooter last season. Not only was he taking threes with more confidence and at a higher volume, he started to showcase more versatility in the types of threes he's comfortable hitting, meaning that in previous years he may have been confined to the corners. Now he's taking some from the top of the key, above the break, maybe in early offense. I think the most important thing though is that he no longer feels like a guy that the defense can just leave open and not be hurt. He made 43.5% of his wide open threes last year on over 200 attempts. That's pretty impressive, and even if that was the only thing he brought to the table, I'd say I trust him more than Dort as a spot-up option. What I personally like most about his offense though is his passing ability. He's not nearly a good enough shot creator to be a true playmaker, but when it comes to making that extra pass or attacking off the catch and finding the open man, he's really good, which again is a perfect fit in OKC. Most of their possessions start with either Shea or J-Dub creating a quick advantage, and from there they'll move the ball around and drive until they find the shot they want. Having a guy on the wing who can make open threes, slash, and consistently make the right decisions as a passer can be really valuable. I've seen some people compare this move to Derek White going to the Celtics, and I wouldn't quite go there. He isn't nearly the ball handler or shooter that White is, but I do think we could see his offense utilized in a way it hasn't been throughout his career. You pair that with his all-league level defense, and add it to a team that just won nearly 60 games in a bloodbath of a conference, and we could just see a synergistic effect that makes them look like a juggernaut come time for the 2025 playoffs. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Caruso. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.